to show you how to make this sorting hat cake topper from rice cereal. So this hat is made out of Rice Krispie treats. So I have some marshmallows and some rice cereal. I'm getting a little Crisco in the bowl. And I don't use a certain recipe. I just eyeball it. So I'm getting a little bit of marshmallows in the bowl. I'm microwaving them until they are melted and stirring them. And then I just want to add Rice Krispies a little bit at a time. So you need a perfect crispy to marshmallow ratio. So right now that's too marshmallowy. It's not going to hold its shape together. So I'm adding a little bit more Rice Krispies and stirring. So you just want to keep adding it until you get it to look like this. And this is going on a 5-inch cake, so I have a 5-inch cake pan here so I can make sure I'm making this the right size. Now my hands and my countertop are clean, and I'm just getting some of these Rice Krispies out here, and I want to shape this hat into a cone shape. So I start by forming it into a little ball, like really crunching it all together, and I'm forming it into a cone shape. So I have it flat on the bottom. I'm trying to taper it as it comes to the top. So I like to smack it on the countertop a couple times to get it really flat, and then I'm just trying to bring it to a point, rolling it on the countertop as needed, and putting it on top of that cake pan to make sure that it's the right size. It was still a little too wide at the bottom, so I'm just trying to roll it out and keep this cone shape. I sprinkled down some cornstarch on that cake pan so it won't stick, and I'm going to set that aside overnight to dry. And now I want to color the fondant. That's white marshmallow fondant, and I added a little Buckeye brown in there, and I'm just kneading this all together. I need quite a bit of brown to get this to be a lighter medium brown shade, I guess. Whenever you add a lot of coloring to the marshmallow fondant, it's going to soften it up, so I do add a little bit of Tylose powder in there as well to help it keep its shape. And then I need to let it sit for a little bit just so that Tylose powder can work and it can set. Now I need to shave off the bumps here. So this is the following day. That is pretty solid. And I'm just taking a microplane and shaving off the bumps. And now I'm washing my hands. My hands are always clean when I handle my cakes, but I'm spreading some American buttercream all along this, and I'm taking a little bit of hot water. I'm running my hands under hot water and smoothing this out. Now I want a thicker layer of buttercream, so when I press into it, I can create the eyes and mouth in here. So usually when I cover my rice cereal, I don't like to have a really thick layer of icing, but for this, you need it. I took off a little bit too much, so I added another little patch here, and I'm just running my hand under the water to smooth everything out. Now that fondant sat for about 20 minutes with that Tylose powder in it, and look how nice and stretchy this is. I don't have elephant skin. It's not going to tear as I do this, and I want to roll this out so I can cover this hat. So I want to roll it out about 1/4 of an inch thick. It can't be too thin. You don't want it to tear as you are covering that piece. So you can see how thick I rolled this out, and now I want to just lift this up and carefully cover this. So I put that on a cutting board, and the cutting board is on a turntable. I'm laying this on top, and this part can get a little tricky. So you see how I'm gathering it at the top because I'm going to need excess fondant up there, and I don't want to push it down as I'm smoothing it out. Usually I slide my fingers down when I'm covering something with fondant, but this time I'm kind of just trying to push the fondant against the piece and then lift it up so I have excess fondant. This will make sense as I continue. I'm just trying to get all of these wrinkles out, and then I'm pulling the fondant up and trying to get it to come to a point. Now I am keeping that excess fondant at the very bottom, so I'm just trying to flatten it out because that's going to be the brim. I'm just trimming off a little bit of the excess here, but not too much because I will cut it to size a little later. And then do you see how I'm sliding my hands up here and I'm trying to bring this hat to a point? That's why I wanted to put all that extra icing underneath it, because it allows me to easily slide this fondant into place. And I'm just kind of pinching it as I get it up, and this hat is pretty wrinkly, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And now I want to add the details. So I'm taking my thumb to create the indents for the eyes, and I have a picture of a sorting hat close, and I'm just trying to make it look like the picture. Do you see how I'm pinching it in the middle a little bit, and I'm slightly pinching at the top to create these little eyebrows? But again, I'm not pinching too hard. But do you see how, because I have that excess icing in there, I can press into the fondant and create these indents? And again, just trying to slide my fingers up, trying to gather more fondant at the very top to create that little hook that's in that hat. So I'm working in little sections here. Don't squeeze too hard. You don't want to poke a hole in the fondant. You just need to be patient with it and work slowly. Now I'm taking my ball tools and I'm just deepening this, but again, don't press too hard because then you'll poke a hole through the fondant and then you'll be able to see that icing underneath. And now I want to make the mouth. So again, I'm just using my fingers and my tools to create this. And the picture that I found, I just Googled Harry Potter sorting hat clip art and found a picture that I liked, and I am following it. So again, I'm just using my tools and using my fingers to shape this to look like the picture. And I'm trying to create the bottom part of the mouth. Do you see how I have my thumb come underneath it, so I'm not just pushing the fondant down, I'm kind of pinching it together to create this shape. I'm adding a little bit of cheekbones. And I am not a sculptor by any means. I am just looking at the picture and trying to make it look like this. Every time I make it, it looks a little different, but as long as you can get the eyes in here, you get the mouth, and then you add a little bit more wrinkles, it will look like the Sorting Hat. And once the face is done, the easier part is just adding the wrinkles. So do you see how I'm just making little indents in the fondant, kind of pinching it together? There's no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just trying to add wrinkles. I do it in the very front, and then I go around to the back and add them there as well. And I'm just refining this tip of the hat, adding a little bit more wrinkles, trying to pull it out and pinch it a little bit more and shape it to the correct position, and just taking my Dresden tool and adding more wrinkles. And now I'm trimming off a little bit more of that fondant, but still try to keep on more than you think that you'll need, because I'm going to put it on top of that cake pan to measure it, and then I'll cut a little bit more off. And I just want to get a spatula underneath here, lift it up and sprinkle down some cornstarch. This way it's not going to stick to this cutting board as it dries. I've done it before and it stuck and it was a nightmare to lift it off. So I'm rolling some paper towels in a little log and flattening them out a little bit and sticking them underneath the brim. That way it's going to dry with a little curve, a little shape to it, a little motion. It just adds a little bit more visual interest. You can dry it flat if you prefer, but it only takes a couple seconds to add those there. And I'm going to set those aside to dry overnight. Now I want to deepen this with some color. I'm using my airbrush gun. You can use petal dust if you don't have an airbrush gun, but I have some chocolate brown airbrush coloring. I'm spraying it around the brim, and I'm holding the gun kind of far away and just using circular motions. I don't want to cover all of this light brown with the dark brown, so I'm just trying to keep some light brown showing through. And then I'm using a little bit of black to go in the indents, so in the eyes and in the mouth and all of the wrinkles. And again, I am barely pulling back the trigger of my airbrush gun, just trying to get deep into these wrinkles just to add a little bit dimension. And again, like I said, you can use a brush and some petal dust to do this as well. And then I just want to go over it one more time with that chocolate brown and just deepening this, adding a little bit more detail. Do you see how it really brings it to life when you add the color? And now I want to put on the cake. I got the cake out of the refrigerator. I'm sticking some skewers in there, and I'm getting a little bit of icing down on top, making sure that's facing front, and I'm sliding this down there. And this dried for a couple days, so I'm not going to mess it up as I do this, and just dust the excess cornstarch off of there. And here is the Sorting Hat cake topper. I have made this many times. Every sorting hat has its own character, so no two ever look exactly the same, but with the same set of techniques, the magic always comes through. Each cake topper takes on a personality of its own, just like the hat itself.